I liked that this course was not, 3 or 4 ramps set in a way that allowed riders to do their bangers on every single jump of every run. I think that concept has gotten completely stale and needs to go away. Congrats to Luke Ackerman. I love watching Luke ride. He's just such a wild man. He does not give any shits. He goes out there, he's got massive tricks, and he just throws them, rain or shine, no problem. So I think he's a really cool kid as well. I'm glad that he got the gold.
Welcome back for the second episode in the X Games review mini-series. I'm Steve Summerfeld, the host for the Riders Lounge podcast, and I'm stoked to have even more voices join me to give their opinions on the first major event of 2021. If you jumped in on this episode and you didn't get the overall impression one, just flick back one episode in the podcast list to just see what the other riders had to say about this event in general. But if you only want to know about freestyle motocross, then this is the podcast for you. This time though, we are looking specifically at one of the main disciplines, and it was held at 9:30 in the morning. I'm guessing a decision which could have been based more around the wind conditions than many other decisions, because I would hate to have been there and try and wake up at 10 past 9, roll out of bed, put my gear on, fire up the bike and get stuck into one of the best FMX courses at X Games in a very, very long time. That would have been hard for me anyway. I don't know about the other riders, but that would have been impossible for me. If you haven't watched X Games yet, I'm going to say this is the spoiler alert, but I would be so disappointed that you've got no more time to turn this off. And we'll get into everybody else's thoughts on freestyle motocross this year, which was pretty crazy to see. But the results were, in first place at his first X Games, the first German to pick up a gold medal in freestyle, Luke Ackerman, with 92.33. So he was almost 3 points clear of second place, multiple X Games medalist and gold medalist, Josh Sheeny. So that was pretty crazy. Rob Adelberg, 0.33 behind in third place. And then it was David Rinaldo in fourth, Taka fifth, Harry Bink in sixth after he launched off into the bushes. Jacko Strong, yep, big surprise there, in seventh. And Benny Richards, not with the greatest start to his X Games career, but it can only go up from there, in eighth position. So joining me on this episode, we've got back again the 2007 X Games gold medalist and self-proclaimed professional internet shit talker himself, Adam Jones. Having won an X Games medal in this category, Adam knows better than almost anybody else on this planet what it takes to impress the judges. We also have the general manager and the lead pilot of the Lidus tandem FMX team. I'm going to have to work out how to say this name for the team. Anyway, it's Antonio Navas. He's back again after that overall impression episode, and he has a lot more to say about the freestyle moto. And also we've got FMX Grizz. He's back again to give his view as a fan of the sport. And actually, since the first episode, I had quite a lot of voice messages from you guys, and I really appreciate everyone who sent one through, and also the guys and girls, actually, who didn't like the sound of their own voice and instead wrote some messages. And I completely get that. Unfortunately, I've just had a lot of practice listening to my own voice, and I've just had to learn to deal with it. And I guess you've just listened to me, listen to my voice again. So, yeah. Also joining me will be Andy Christie, who's not just a listener, not just a fan. He's a full-blown freestyle rider. And he was actually at the very first competition I rode on the Gold Coast in 2004, and I wasn't allowed to ride because I didn't have proper moto pants. Enter Andy, and he gave me his sweaty moto pants after his run, and off I went. So back in the day, Andy had a bunch of huge flip combos, and he even gave FMX on a CR500 a go in around 2010 or 11 as well. So it's cool to get his opinion. To talk about the course, we've got one of the Red Bull Dirt Diggers track builders who also isn't scared to send it on some big jumps himself. Back in the day, at his old track called Rocket World over there in England. Good old dozer guy himself, Rocket. He jumped in with a quick thought on what he saw in X Games, but also what he hoped to have seen from Slayground, and actually brought up a couple of really good points. And from a judge's point of view, we've actually got Jose Gaspar, and you may not know the name, but he's definitely been involved in freestyle motocross for a very, very long time as the Brazilian correspondent. Jose was a judge at Red Bull X Fighters, and he was always putting out plenty of news, or FMX news, on FMX Brazil, and he was an ESPN Moto journo. And also one other feather in his cap, he was an X Games judge back in the day, so he can give a completely different opinion from the other side of the fence on what he would think the judges are probably looking for in this competition. And also, I'm so stoked to have another listener of the podcast join, Danny Dwayne416 on Instagram. He sent through a quick update from the overall impression episode, and it was too good not to include it in this. You'll love what he had to say. Anyway, the liquid fuel required to make this episode to come to life today is from the German brewer, who is the only one supporting FMX and motocross podcasts from around the world, Rothaus Brewery, with their Tannenzäpfler alcohol-free beer, which is just keeping me alive and focused on watching moto vids and calling it work. We'll lead on from the last episode to get into these opinions from different riders and people from around the industry. And we'll kickstart this with the first guy, Adam Jones. And he was talking about the views on the event last time. And he was also talking about the course design. And then he goes into the freestyle motocross run. So here we go, Adam Jones.
I liked that this course was not, 3 or 4 ramps set in a way that allowed riders to do their bangers on every single jump of every run. I think that concept has gotten completely stale and needs to go away. The reason being is that, I don't know, there's mixed reviews on the weekend, but I liked it, right? I like the fact that, all right, Rob Adelberg threw a one-hand heart in his run. It's probably not a good example, because if Rob Adelberg is going to throw any one right side up trick in his run, it's going to be a one-handed heart. But you get what I mean. I mean the guys are mixing it up. They're not doing 7 out of 7 bangers in the run. They have to do different tricks. Going into a double-double, you have to do an easier trick on the first one. So guys have to dig way deep into their bags. They got to find something else that works on a course. Also, some jumps just not being ideal in the setup that this was. Once again, riders have to dig down into their bags. There's only one jump that could be double flipped, might have been in a weird spot. So then guys have to limit their double flips. Guys have to limit these banger tricks that over the last probably 10 years, freestyle motocross has been a complete just banger festival for their runs. And I think that was cool, and it had its place. Back when we were doing Red Bull X Fighters, when we had 5 big events a year with Red Bull X Fighters, maybe one of those, maybe 2 would be your full banger runs, like the Madrid or like the Giza. Everything else was these big technical courses where riders really had to show their stuff. They had to, be very diverse riders to be able to win on those. And I think that's a tiny little snippet of what we saw this weekend again with a difficult course. This is why I like to not do this on WhatsApp voice message, because I've lost my train of thought. Anyways, I think it showed a lot of strengths and weaknesses for people, A guy like Sheeny, I knew was going to go out there and was going to be solid no matter what. And he did, and Sheeny got second place, and he deserved it. And, I think the top 3 guys were right where they needed to be. And it shows. I talked to Rob, and he wasn't even completely happy with his run. And that's like what this shit is about, right? The courses should be that hard that you're not completely happy with your run every time, right? There's something you probably could have done a little bit better, but you did your best because the course was tough. That's what we need to get back to, not this shit of like, yeah, I did all 7 of my jumps perfect because all it was a 75-foot ramp with a 150-foot run-up. Jump was propped up perfectly. I checked the degrees on the takeoff ramp, and it was exactly where I needed it. Let's get over that shit. I'm done with it. This is what we needed. This was a tiny little bit of it. It showed, like I said, strengths and weaknesses. There's some guys that I don't think can hack it on courses like this, and I don't think they ever will. They didn't before, they didn't now. They succeeded in the middle because it was a different time, but the course was cool. The course could have been different, could have been better, obviously. And believe me, I'm sitting here shit talking from the couch. I wasn't there, and I'm in no way saying I would have went out there and dominated that course or anything like that. The course looked difficult. I've rode big courses with almost all of these guys that were at that event, and you could tell these guys were struggling. Like, I know the guys that can go to a big course and do well, and even you could tell they were struggling this weekend. So it was a very difficult course, despite the fact that it did look fairly easy, right? A lot of runs, plenty of run up, but there was obviously something about this course that made it difficult for the riders. So what was my point of that? I don't remember. Just that I guess I'm not saying I could go out there and win this thing by any means, or a podium, or I probably would have got last place as well. Who knows? It looked difficult. Congrats to Luke Ackerman. I love watching Luke ride. He's just such a wild man. He does not give any shits. He goes out there, he's got massive tricks, and he just throws them, rain or shine, no problem. So I think he's a really cool kid as well. I'm glad that he got the gold. Sheeny rode solid as hell. Rob rode great. I loved Rinaldo's new varial that he did. The new spin on the Cali roll was super cool. Taka rode super solid as always. What else was there? Not too sure. Sorry, let me collect my thoughts. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, my biggest thing, more big courses in freestyle motocross. Let's get back to that. Let's shake it up. I want everybody to get off the course from their runs and go, you know what, my run could have been a little bit better, because the courses should be that hard that's how it works, right? Forces riders to do tricks that we don't see at every single contest. People make little mistakes here and there. They don't get exactly what they want every time. It separates everybody. That I liked. Let's get more of that. I really want freestyle motocross to come back, but I just don't know. I don't know what the way the sport is right now and everything, what's going to happen. So hopefully we get another shot at a big course next year. Hopefully they don't do invites based completely on one trick and only one trick. And, I hope for more along the same lines of this year. So appreciate you guys listening to my rant. Hope that wasn't too long. Steve just took up 10 minutes of your time. My thumb is burning right now because I've been holding this damn microphone button on WhatsApp for 10 minutes and 20 seconds. Oh my gosh, I got a wrist cramp. Okay, guys, I got to go. I'm back to being jobless and worthless. Thanks for listening, guys. See ya.
Thanks so much, Adam, for your opinion. But about your thumbs burning, mate, I was talking to Martin Corrin the other day, and he actually told me there's a lock button on WhatsApp. I had no idea, so hopefully that helps you out for your burning thumbs next time. All right, next up, it's El Presidente from Lleida in Catalonia, Spain, Antonio Navas.
Oi, oi. First of all, with the freestyle comp, my thoughts, in general, when I looked to the event, I didn't like that much because, it was like everyone was taking it maybe, I don't like to say easy, but not as hard as I was expecting. And I think it makes sense, because that was a completely new course, and which is, I think it's cool, because I was expecting something like this. I think it's good for freestyle instead of just one landing or two landings. And but also the riders, they were like maybe 1 year and a half, no competitions, and they were probably a bit too nervous. And, after that long without any shows and stuff, and you go straight away to X Games, I think it's a bit tough, So, but definitely I think it was worth it to have this FMX comp. I don't really know why so many riders, they did so many mistakes. Probably because, what I said, too long without any shows, and maybe because they also had not many practice time into that new course. And it was, like 72 feet ramp, or 30 and 35 meters ramp, and 23, and different distances, different angles, and different heights of landings, and that was a bit maybe too much, and not too much time to ride it. So yeah, this is what I think about the freestyle competition. For me, also, Luke Ackerman was worth it to win. He put together a great run, and yeah, he deserved the gold medal.
All right, so I wanted to get the insights from an actual track builder and dozer guy from the UK, Rocket, and he jumped in and told us what he saw and what he wished he hoped to see from the guys riding in X Games.
Hey Steve, my thoughts on the freestyle course. I thought it was awesome. The whole sleigh ground setup is amazing. We've been watching the videos for the last few years. Just awesome. Nice big poppy jumps everywhere. Like Squibby said, some of the jumps I don't think were perfect for FMX tricks. And there's a few things that were, well, one of the ramps I noticed is the Adelberg, where Adelberg was doing the front flip. It was just a bit of a hump about 4 or 5 meters in front of the takeoff. It just seemed to unsettle the bike a bit. Little things like that should have been dealt with. Should have been nice smooth run-ups at that level. As for the course, I think would love to have seen the wall ride brought into it. I've loved to think in the next few years that FMX would go to more like MTB slope style with drops, wall rides, nice step ups. We've seen the tricks that a few of the boys can do off platforms. Kai has the front flip, and sorry I forgot his name, the Spanish dude doing that flip off the platform. Little things like that. I reckon it would be sick to have a 8 to 10 jump run with all sorts of stuff in it. Like I said, slopestyle. Whilst I'm doing this message, Steve, I thought it'd be a good time to see if I could get a beer sponsor, as you've got a deal going with Wrought House. Could you hook me up with them for my efforts in the dirt jumping world? Well, dirt shaping world rather. Been flat out the last couple of months shaping jumps in this heat. Be lovely to have a cold one at the end of the day.
Yeah, Rocket. Let's see what we can do. Actually, I know there's a distributor over in the UK called Black Forest Beers. Might have to get some sent down your way to keep you cool, because I know the Poms get tired pretty quickly in the blazingly hot 27-degree heat. Come on. It's not that hot over there, mate. Actually, you've got some work over here in Germany next month as well, so maybe I'll do a drive-by of the brewery before I come pick you up at the airport. That might just keep you happy. With even more insight from the judging side of things, Jose Gaspar from Brazil, who has had one of the toughest jobs, and that's being a judge. You'll always have one guy loving you and the rest of the field thinking you're having a nap and not watching the action. It's not easy, but Jose explains what the judges would be looking for this year at X Games.
Yes, Steve. I have worked for ESPN for some years, and I even judged X Games. And at that time, even freestyle was about big tricks. Don't get me wrong, there were full analysis on the runs, but I would say there was an extra push to the big tricks. I mean, the system was not so fully balanced among the criteria as X Fighters, for example. Why? People like big tricks. Media get magnetic images. Plus, that creates a sense of risk, commitment, and progression. There might be many explanations to the scores, and only the X Game judges can give them. But based on my experience, I would like to highlight a point. Judges at the venue have a different view, a clearer perception. They feel the environment through the weekend. Plus, they are taking notes and assessing every tiny detail. And they are focused on converting such details into scores. And that can lead to a different perception from judges and audience.
I think Jose pretty much summed up the judging criteria right there. It's about big tricks. X Fighters, it's different. It's about everything. Night of the Jumps, it's kind of like X Fighters where they're looking at the overall. But X Games has always been about the big tricks. You're on the big stage. You've got all the TV coverage in the world. It's about innovation, progression, and going ham. So it always has been, and it appears probably always will be. All right, next up, the man who lent me his sweaty moto pants so I could ride my first FMX comp, Andy Christie.
So watching X Games FMX, it was, as a rider and a fan, it was obvious to me that the riders weren't given nearly enough time to feel comfortable with the course. With a course like Slayground, they really should have been given at least a week to gel with the course, get their bikes set up correctly. I know Jacko mentioned online that he was having jetting issues, and I think if X Games wants to give the fans, the sponsors, the promoters, everyone the competition that we'd love to see, they've got to let these athletes have the time to prepare and really feel comfortable. That way we're going to see the progression and innovation that they've been working on over the last 2 years since we last seen X Games.
Now for the real fans' opinions, we've got FMX Grizz. He's back again to give his thoughts on it.
Man, the freestyle motocross discipline, I was so stoked going into this. I think this whole event had everyone on the edge of their seats. Not only I was happy to see some new riders coming through, and even some of the old boys coming back to it to put down some big tricks. I think Richards, man, I think he done so well with what he had there, and being at X Games for the first time and crashing on that first jump and then getting back to it and then having them few jumps and that, I think he done so well. And then as you see Jacko had to flag him down. I think that was definitely the right move to do for him. As you know, all it takes is one crash and we're out. So even like we see Jacko struggling on that course, not that he was struggling, he just seemed lost, but I don't think he was actually lost. I just think he knew that the runoffs were short and it's a risk here, and I don't think he was willing to risk it all there because he knew. And then David Rinaldo's run, he was doing them huge body varials in his run. I just think he was just so on top of his game that event. Harry Bink, man, he put some mad runs down. Definitely a medal contender in my eyes. And it's just like you can see from that last double backflip on run 1, I think there was like 10 seconds left, and as he landed, like, this course gave no room for error whatsoever. And like we see, Harry literally landed and he didn't have enough braking time. He just shot straight over that burn, and as you see, it launched him. And we see it happen to Jacko as well. I just think that, did X Games let him down there? Or did X Games, is that how they wanted the course to be? Was that like sort of another judging criteria? They made this course so on point. You've got to be hitting everything perfect in order to get that score on this as well. I don't know, like, we don't know how this course was judged, and it was different obviously to our normal events we see at X Games. I think overall the riders done so well with the hand that they were dealt there. It was all new, everyone's fresh, no one's rid major competitions for the last 2 years, and it's just like everything's new again. And I guess you didn't have the crowd there pumping everyone on, and it's just, I guess it was a different atmosphere for them to experience.
All right, last but not least, here's Danny Dwayne 416 with his fan opinion from actually the first episode, the overall impression, and kind of summing up everything.
Yeah, just giving my opinion on X Games. Not that it matters, just a fan of it. I thought it was great. You know, the way things going, pretty much take what you can get. Missing the moto stuff, especially the freestyle. But, you know, you have an event, if there's more than one person going, you're going to have a bunch of bullshit going on with it. So, but at the end of the day, if you want to do the whole monster thing, FMX, Luke Ackerman, Red Bull, Best Trick, Rob, I'll Have a Burger, Ras for Rockstar, Quarter Pipe, Kobe Raha for Rockstar, and Tom Parsons won whip, and I don't even think he's got anybody, so he needs to get something from this. But there's a whole bunch of shit to say, and I only have a minute. So anyway, man, love the show.
I could not have said that any better. Danny Dwayne 416, you have won today's messages, I think. Rob, I'll have a burger. And actually, you've brought up a really good point. If more than one guy turns up for a competition, you're going to get a bunch of bullshit going on with it. That is so brilliant. And you couldn't have been any more succinct about that than I've ever said before. It's just natural. We're in a sport where all the riders are risking their lives. There'll always be very big points of difference for ramps and gaps, when to ride, the format, blah, 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 blah. And it will show in decisions on how to run an event to try and make everybody as happy as possible. So, Danny Dwayne 416, you've received the No Bullshit Award of the week. Actually, I think you should probably be looking for a spot to commentate at next year's event. Good job. Thanks, man. All right, so a few things that really stuck out to me when I was listening to everybody talk. Adam Jones brought up limiting the big tricks on that big course, because in years past, yeah, it was just a complete huck fest. So it is cool that the course was difficult for the riders to get around, and they had to choose what tricks they had to do on the ramps. And you could see some guys would throw a backflip where they probably didn't need to. Maybe they could have chosen a better trick and possibly had a better result. I don't know. The one thing there about being, having the ramps set perfectly with angles being absolutely correct and whatever. And this is an issue I've seen at almost every single competition. And I get it. I want to ride on the best course possible. Every rider wants to ride on the best course possible. But everybody comes from a different background, and what I think is cool or what you think is good could be completely different. So, yep, Adam Jones, always with just top remarks, really. No, you absolutely nailed it. Andy Christie, the training time, and that came up again with Antonio Navas. I don't know how much training they had, but Mason definitely said it in the live stream that the guys really didn't have much time. And the other part was also Jacko mentioned the jetting issues, and I heard altitude issues as well. And maybe that was a problem for a few of those guys, especially on the two strokes. If it was an altitude issue, they're going to feel it first. Too long between events. Yeah, not much you can do about that, unfortunately. So it's something everybody's got to deal with. All the different ramps, distances and landings. I guess that comes back to what Adam was saying, and there wasn't too much time to ride it. It probably would be much cooler, actually, even if they had one extra day or a couple of days just to get used to that course that Axel's built. Clearly, he's built something pretty gnarly, and for the guys to get around it with as little practice as we're told they had, they've done an awesome job. Imagine if they just had that little bit extra time to throw down even better. But again, then you come back to what Adam said, that, well, we just see who's better on the day. So, tough. It's definitely a tough one there. Rocket brought up the course design, and it would have been cool to see all the things Axel actually has there. Imagine if they were all included, even if it was just the wall ride. That would have been awesome. But 75 seconds probably wouldn't have even been enough to add all of those things in. Well, at least for one person. But then you get to see the guys choose different parts of the course, and you're not expecting everybody to hit the same jumps. That would be cool. So 75 seconds, big course, add in what Rocket was talking about with that wall ride and anything else, like the rainbow, whatever it's called, they used in the 50s. That would have been sick. But anyway, so one of the main points, actually, because I wanted to look back through the riders, how they rode and how they got along. And Squibby mentioned this in the overall impression episode. So if you didn't listen to it, basically Squibby was just saying how cool it was that the next gen ramp, the ramp that Levi Sherwood designed, was in the course. And you probably did not know it was actually the first ramp in the double-double line. And I had no idea until Squibby told me. I didn't believe him. I went back and watched the video, read a comment or a post from Tom Parsons actually saying that it was. And then I watched the video again and I was like, yeah, you're right. So that next gen ramp, it's kind of different. Okay, it's very different. They didn't utilize it great, but my first thought when I watched the full freestyle run again was Benny Richards was the first guy up and he went for that KOD flip off that ramp and he came up short. New ramp, not kind of set up how it was designed to be set up. I don't know. I was just like, maybe that's also a little bit of a reason. I don't know. But actually, hopefully I'll find out from Benny Richards what the issue was. He did actually text me the other day and he said he's sitting in the mandatory quarantine back in Australia for 2 weeks. So hopefully we can catch up for a quick chat, find out what the problem was. But more, what I want to do is find out about his story in freestyle motocross. In the last episode, like I said, I've known him and his younger brother Tom for about 10 years. They were down there ripping around Jacko Strong's house when I was there. And it's just so cool to see them both growing up and throwing down. Anyway, it didn't work out for Benny this time, but it is what it is and he will be back. And I really would like to find out more about who he is and where he's going. What is his plan? And actually, just quickly, that was a huge crash on the first jump. How he got out of that one, I was really impressed. And if that was me, I would have been on a one-way trip on an Ambo ride out of Slayground. On the second run, or his second attempt, he had the same issue coming up short, and then the old flat tire trick, probably pinching it when he knuckled either the first jump or the second jump. So it was good that Jacko noticed it and pulled him up. And I can imagine the disappointment that Benny would have had on the biggest stage, but in my mind, he had nothing to prove, really. He's a really good young rider. He's got massive tricks already. This is just a learning curve, and we'll see him again another day. I'm absolutely sure of that. The second rider to come out and throw down their freestyle run was David Rinaldo, but he was actually the first rider to do a full run. It was clean, new body varial, second jump, new body varial, rock solid backy. His uprights are awesome. That joy twist, technical tricks, but he was punished, I thought, for the course use. Mike Mason actually was talking about the shadow on the ramp and that you can't see the transition because of the position of the ramp to where the sun is. And that actually made me feel so much more validated, because when I was riding, I hated riding into a ramp that had a shadow on it and you can't just see the transition of the ramp. I hate it. So I'm actually pumped to hear that someone like Mike Mason also hates it. But yeah, that on that ramp, that's where he threw out this new body varial. So what I did was I looked back and David actually did 7 jumps in his run. So it felt like he was getting around the course slow, but he was only 1 jump less than most guys. But it was so much cleaner and there was innovation. There was technical tricks. Because he was the first rider out, I may be wrong, but I have noticed when I've been at events, when I've judged at events, when I've spoken to other judges at other events, the first rider is almost the guy. Like, it's a tough position to get through because as a judge, you've got to set your level for what you think is going to come. Like, your level, it's subjective. It's completely subjective. So what is your level on the day for the next riders to come? And I feel like maybe David being the first guy out, he was inadvertently punished because he got around the course slowly and didn't link things together as perfectly as you would want to expect at an X Games event. But what we found from every single rider after him was nobody got around the course that well. So that was just one part that stuck out to me. Of course, then he went for the new body varial, the Bobby spin in the second one, and took a dirt sample, but I am stoked he got back up and threw it down in best trick. So yeah, I was a little bit bummed for David on that one. Harry Bink, well, you never know what Harry's going to do. That's why Harry gets these invites. Like, well, not just that, he's fucking got massive tricks, but it's that unknown element that he could just go crazy and send something so stupid, and usually he can hold on to them. There's been so many flip combos. Like, if you go through Harry's Instagram that he's somehow saved, it's just amazing. So the other thing, I guess, I don't know, just like his mate back on the Gold Coast, old Sawley, they don't own T-shirts or jerseys. And a lot of people asked who was that tattooed on his back. No, it's not Steve-O. It's actually his brother, Grant Bink. So I did have a lot of questions on that one, and I figured I'd just throw that in now. What I was surprised, though, was his one-hand knack backflip on the first jump into a can to knack backflip combo on the second jump. They are definitely old school flip tricks. And, you know, listening to Jose Gaspar talking about big tricks, that's what X Games are looking for. Well, one-hand knacks and can to knack flips aren't that big. But he then turned around and threw out the can double flip. So was Harry Bink's plan like to lead the viewers through his run, linking the old school with just going nuts on a double backflip and throwing these new combos? And we do know he has the double backflip one-handed knack where he grabs his boot. Maybe that was going to be that double flip that he crashed. I don't know. Like, that could have worked out really well for him. But, of course, on the second double flip, he exited stage right and whiskey throttled into the bushes. So we will never know if that would have worked for the judges and how that might have made him feel like linking those tricks together. Anyway, he didn't finish his run, and we'll find out maybe at the next X Games. So then the next rider up, and I'm going through basically from the first riders group because that really set the scene. So Luke Ackerman was the next rider up. And again, this is where I was counting tricks in the run or jumps. So David Rinaldo, he had 7. Luke, he got his 8 jumps in, and he was getting around the course pretty well. He linked up different ramps that most guys didn't use, especially talking about the quarter pipe. And he was the first guy to hit the quarter pipe in the competition. He was the first to link the course together, probably the best until that point. He had the double flips. He had a massive ruler flip. He had the massive 360, one of the biggest 360s ever. And he went bigger in his second run. And so that would have got all the judges pumped up. They've just seen 2 crashes before, and here comes Luke just throwing down, linking up the course and using a ramp nobody else had done. Like I said, the second attempt, the 360 was bigger. He just held on to it, but it did look like he popped his shoulder out or something, I don't know what, and he couldn't finish that run. But that first one from Luke, that just set the scene, and obviously that was the run that won him the competition. And I think this comes back to where the judges are looking for those, setting their levels on the points they're giving. So yeah, Luke got his, 92.33 if I'm correct. I'll just scroll back up here. 92.33. Good. My memory's not too bad today. So yeah, that's where it all happened. First run, Luke threw out a run that we've seen from him many times before, let's say at Night of the Jumps, but he did get around pretty damn well. Then Taka came up, And he had that rocky flip over the 105-foot ramp. So that was already impressive. Super clean run. Always stylish. Like, there's not really much more to say about Taka, other than that no-hand flip on that one ramp, which looked like it had a bit of a bump in the runway that Rocket was talking about. And I think if he had any of his upright tricks on that jump where he didn't have to worry about this bump or whatever was setting the guys up to not feel good on that ramp, would have just scored him, I think, would have scored him so much better on that jump. Any other trick, but the no-hand flip, I think maybe that was the one trick that let him down. Other than that, awesome run. Just Taka like normal, just not good enough to get on the podium this time. And it's just always cool to see Taka throw down with different lines and different tricks. The crazy one, the crazy part of this whole event, I couldn't wait to see what Jacko had after watching his real moto edit from his home. Double flipping dirt, front flipping dirt. Jacko is on another level to almost every rider in the world. And I was just like, okay, what's he going to do on a course which is disrupting everybody? And unfortunately, he had the same problem. That's the first jump, a little bit long, balking on the second jump. He landed heavy, and I guess he just didn't have time to set himself up properly for the second one, and he missed it. What was cool was to see him he continued on, and he did huck that real fronty down the hill, clean as a whistle. On the second attempt, again, he overjumped that next-gen ramp, which fluffed him for the 105-foot jump, where he would have gone for the cliffhanger backflip. Imagine seeing a cliffhanger backflip over 105 foot. That would have been awesome. But anyway, just didn't work out for Jacko this time. You win some, you lose some. Time for Sheeny. And this is, I think I might talk a little bit about it later, but Sheeny had 9 jumps in his run. Super clean. Always super clean. He linked the course up better than I think anybody else did. His 360, not as big as Luke's, but the ruler flip was definitely on par. The first double, it was clean. Clean as a whistle. Luke had the knack double to finish, whereas Sheeny had the one hand. I'm guessing he went for the no hand option, but he just didn't get the second hand off like he normally does, and holding it even. But I guess the one thing, the big difference also, was Sheeny had that lazy boy flip over the 105-footer, the third gear jump that not everybody hit. After the clock finished, though, he did 2 more jumps without even trying to extend the tricks that he went for. Did that impact the judges' overall impression of Sheeny on the course? I know in some competitions, if it was at X Fighters, actually no. Is it X Fighters? Maybe it's Night of the Jumps. Man, my memory is really bad today. Definitely at Night of the Jumps, if you went for some tricks after your run, you're on course and still trying to do something, it would probably affect your overall impression. It wouldn't affect the points you got for the tricks and extension and variety and blah, 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 blah. But maybe the overall impression then was changed in the minds of the judges. I don't know. But you could see, after the points came down, Sheeny was almost 3 points clear behind, not clear, but he was almost 3 points behind Luke Ackerman. And you could see in the video, he was pretty disappointed in that. And I was actually very surprised. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. Adelberg, last rider out, I think it was. And yeah, the 75-foot jump, which is on its own, the one where Taka did the no-hand flip, Adelberg fluffed it in his first run, and he also bombed it on his second run as well. On the second attempt, same spot was the problem, and I felt like if Adelberg didn't make that mistake, with that run, would his front flips with a no foot and a no-handed fronty, so clean, with the body varials, everything else super clean, would he have won? The other problem was he did the front flip knack, but that was after the buzzer had already gone. So unfortunately, I guess that definitely was not counted. Now, after all that is said and done from the riders, the biggest issue, and I think I already mentioned at the start, 9:30 in the morning. That was crazy. I've ridden one or two comps early in the morning because we had to get it done due to weather or something else, and I couldn't handle it. I'm all about golden hour at sunset. That's when I feel like riding. And I'm guessing some guys might like riding early in the morning, and I'm sure that probably had a factor on some of these riders in this competition. It's FMX. They're not swimmers at the Olympics who are up at 5 a.m. training, doing laps over and over and over. So I just kind of wanted to make that little note that 9:30 in the morning, would that have a bit of an impact on everybody riding freestyle? If it was me, absolutely yes. Undeniably, I would have hated it. I would have done my job if I could do it, but I would have hated every moment of being awake at 9:30 and trying to throw down. Now for the ifs and the buts. I've already spoken about Sheeny and Luke. For me personally, I would probably say Sheeny for the win, but by 0.33. If not, dead tie. If not, Luke beats him by 0.33. I would say they were so close. Like their runs were very similar. I just felt like Sheeny's was the cleaner run. But then if you start thinking again, like Jose Gaspar said, big tricks is what it's all about. Well, Luke's 360 was bigger. His ruler flip technically would be a fraction bigger, but I don't think the ruler flip's going to be overly important for the judges when they're splitting hairs. I guess it was the double back knack. So the 360, the double backy with a knack, that's pretty much, I think, what sealed it for Luke over Sheeny. If you're talking about big tricks, me personally, I look more for style, so I would say Sheeny. But yeah, I know I've had that many messages, one side or the other, and to be honest, I'm happy with both results. I think Luke fucking deserved it. He killed it. He threw down, and he deserved the win for the reason of gnarliness. I think Sheeny would be also able to take away a win and go, yeah, they were big and it was clean. So whichever way you want to look at it, doesn't really matter. Luke won. It's an ifs and buts. Ifs and buts on Adelberg and that one jump. If he didn't fluff that one jump, would Adelberg have overtaken Sheeny and Luke? As I watched it live, I probably would have felt personally yes. How many guys are doing real front flips? 3. Jacko, Adelberg, Tom. Guess them more have been done, but those are the 3 doing it right now. So for me, if Adelberg hadn't made that one backflip mistake in his first run, second run, I can't remember. Whichever run, I think he probably would have taken the win. Second run. The other ifs and buts, David and his 7 jumps. It was super clean. Well, not super clean, but it was definitely a lot cleaner than a lot of the other guys on course. If he wasn't the second rider out, would his run have been viewed differently? Would David have made the podium with that run if he was the 5th rider out or the 6th rider out? I don't know. And imagine, this is really going out there. Imagine if Jacko threw down whatever he would have been planning. Doubles, fronties. He's got his own varial that he won an X Games gold medal with. That would have been crazy. But you know what? It really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, job's done. Everyone kind of went home in one piece. I guess Harry's feeling a little bit sore, but Luke had a very deserving win, and I am happy to see him get that win. He risked it, and he rode the course as good as anyone pretty much could have with the practice at the time. And Luke nailed it. So for me personally, huge congratulations to Luke. I am really pumped to see him just, man, like he's just taking over freestyle motocross right now. Like, to see him win X Games on the big stage, I don't know. I just feel like it could change his approach a little bit, that he is all in. Will he just go even bigger now? Like, is this the wind behind his sails? He's already broken that many records. He's the world champion. He won that Dirt Diggers event 2 years ago. He's the first to double backflip dirt to dirt. I don't know. I just think with an X Games gold medal, being so young, this is probably just the start of what we're going to see from Luke Ackerman. Anyway, thank you so much again to Adam Jones, Dozer Guy or Rocket or whatever he goes by these days, Antonio Navas, Andy Christie, thanks for the gear, FMX Grizz, Jose Gaspar, and Danny Dwayne 416 for jumping in on this episode. If you had any thoughts on the upcoming episodes, which will be coming out, which is Best Whip next, the 110s, Best Trick, and Quarter Pipe. And if you want to join in, just send through your own voice messages on Instagram in the chat or on Facebook Messenger. Head over to the Riders Lounge podcast accounts on whatever platform you're on and shoot through a voice message. That is the best way to do it, so it doesn't get lost among all the other accounts, and it's the best way to get it on here. Also, remember to check out ridersloungepodcast.com for more news and bits and pieces that are just too big for me to post on social media, or simply to find the older episodes on a few riders who were even riding at this competition at X Games this year. If you have any other questions about the podcast or FMX events in general, you can email me at steve@invertmanagement.com. It's cool to hear from you guys from all around the world. The next episode is coming up. It'll be a lot quicker, and it will be on Best Whip. So tune in soon to find out who has joined us on that one. Until then, see you soon.